Pregame show. I am your host, Zach, also looking like Ted Lasso today. Unfortunately, the only one in costume. I also didn't give them a memo. Jamie, how you doing?
Doing all right. Yeah, I'm actually in my costume. One of the worst teams in the league besides our defense.
It's respectable. That's a good costume right there. Doc, we've got you. We've got your book. Injuries suck, but your fantasy team doesn't have to. How are you doing today?
Look at that professional read by a true pro. I'm doing well. I'm glad to be back with you guys. It's week 7. We're kind of at the halfway point of the season, the fantasy season anyway, and bye week extraordinaire. Lots of injuries and questionables. It's going to get really grimy here on these start sits. I got a feeling we're going to have to be digging deep.
Yeah, I got a few teams where I'm down bad, and a few others where luckily it's my opponents down bad and not me. But yeah, there's some rough.
Everybody's hurting this week, I feel like.
Yeah, not a good spot to be in. Speaking of that, though, we'll touch on the injuries real quick. We'll touch on the guys that are looking like they're trending towards in. First and foremost, Christian McCaffrey, the Monday night play. It's looking like he's going to play, even though he's listed as questionable right now. Then you also have Craig Reynolds, TBD on the workload there between him and Gibbs, but we'll get into that more shortly. From there, with questionable, we have DK Metcalf. Now it's not just a rib injury, but it's also a hip injury. So now that we got two things going on there. Aaron Jones, questionable. Hopefully he plays because otherwise I just want to see James Robinson in that backfield because we've seen enough from A.J. Dillon at this point, right? Kareem Hunt, also questionable. Doubtful, Zach Charbonnet. And then out, Jimmy G. With that in mind, we'll keep you updated as we see any others. And Jamie, you want to just jump right into your first start sit you got for us?
Yeah, mine was Tutu Atwell or Curtis Samuel. I'm leaning towards Samuel, but I have him pretty close in the rank, so I want to see what you guys have to say.
Tutu Atwell, Curtis Samuel.
Full PPR.
Ooh. I'm going Tutu.
Wow, I'm surprised by that.
I like me some Curtis. I like me some Curtis. Don't get me wrong, but I'm trusting the quarterbacks right now. And to me, I'd rather just depend on Stafford and that offense than anything that Washington has going. What about you, Doc?
I mean, I get that. Sam Howell hasn't been great, like as far as like how he's looked, but he's been the I don't know if he's the king of garbage time, but he's the prince of garbage time. And Curtis Samuel has really been benefiting from a lot of that, and he really does look like a solid. He's been a wide receiver too before. He was there in Carolina. It looks like they're finding new and interesting ways to utilize him. I think he scored a touchdown. What has it been? 2 out of the last 3 weeks. Hang on. He scored a touchdown the last 2 weeks. And he had a rushing touchdown the week prior to that. So he scored a touchdown in 3 straight weeks. I know, past performance, no guarantee of future performance, but he's definitely been getting targets. He's getting some rushes here and there. So I don't know. I like Curtis Samuel. I really haven't been able to trust Tutu Atwell, especially with the emergence of Puka Nacua, and Cooper Kupp, obviously the king, the Triple Crown winner back. So, I would go Curtis Samuel there. I feel pretty decent about it, but he has disappointed me before. But if I had the choice between those two, I'd go Curtis Samuel.
And speaking of, as Doc referred to him, it was the Prince of Garbage Time. We've got Alex in the chat asking about the Prince of Garbage Time.
Yeah.
Howell or Watson at QB? Jamie, I'll go to you first.
Yeah, we got to go to Jamie first, the Cleveland fan.
Yeah, I'm not going to start Deshaun Watson. He's been garbage before. I do like Howell's matchup playing the Giants, so I know Scary Terry's been known to tear him apart, like 90, 100 yards every time he plays. I think he had 3 touchdowns in the last 5 games they played. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Sam Howell.
Doc, what are you thinking there?
Totally agree. I mean, I just spent the last 2 minutes waxing poetic about the Redskins and Sam Howell, so I'm not going to go against it now, especially not for Deshaun Watson coming back from a injured rotator cuff. So there's underperformance issues there, and there's potentially could leave the game. So, I'm going to go with Sam Howell.
Yeah, I have to do this. I can't believe how far Deshaun's fallen at this point. It feels like
I kind of can't believe it. I mean, we all kind of assume that he was just going to go back to the way he was 3 years ago. And
it's,
ring rust is a thing. Like whatever other stuff he's got swirling around, like that's got to affect your mentals as well. I mean, he's got the bag now. It's all guaranteed. Like, I don't know, man.
Yeah, one of my dynasty leagues, someone offered me a late first because I'm in second place, and I don't know how he's trying to take my late first and Roshan Johnson from me to give me Deshaun Watson, and I
He's
declined
barking
it.
up the wrong tree there. He's trying to get Roshan. He's barking up the wrong tree.
At least take you to dinner first if he's going to try and take advantage of you. Like, come on now. Also, a little injury update. Adam Schefter right now on Twitter saying active Deshaun Watson, Kareem Hunt, Hunter Henry. Inactive Daniel Jones, Evan Neal, Juju Smith-Schuster, Malik Cunningham.
Okay.
So, yeah, I like Howell even more knowing that DJ is for sure. Obviously, DJ hasn't necessarily been good, but at the same time, going to the backup there just makes me think that Washington's going to be on offense even more, or they'll have control of the ball and therefore more points. So, yeah, back to your 2-2 question from earlier. I'm going to go in favor of Curtis then, with that in mind, with DJ out, because I expect that to even be more unbalanced at that point.
All right.
We also have in the chat, we have Next Up Fantasy Football Podcast saying start 2, half point PPR, Curtis Samuel, Justice Hill, Josh Palmer. Doc, I'll go to you first.
Okay. Yeah, give me the 2 wide receivers there. I mean, we just talked about Curtis Samuel. I think if we talk about him anymore, I'm going to have to get a Curtis Samuel jersey. And Josh Palmer is another one of my favorites. He's very underrated. I know everybody wants, especially in the dynasty space, they want QJ to be a thing, and I think he will. But I just don't think we're there yet. And Josh Palmer's done it before. He's taken advantage of last year when Keenan Allen was injured. He stepped up pretty big, ended up being a wide receiver 3 for the year. And he's kind of doing more of the same this year. Pieces of that explosive offense I want. So give me those 2 guys and, Justice Hill in a timeshare with Gus the Bus and, whoever else. I mean, the RB1 in Baltimore is Lamar Jackson. So it's pretty easy. 2 wide receivers there for me.
Jamie, thoughts?
Yeah, same thing. I'm going both wide receivers. I got Josh Palmer this week and my top 20 wide receivers. They're going to go against KC. They're going to have to be throwing the ball to catch up. So I like his. Then Curtis Samuel, way over Justice Hill.
Got to blow the whistle. I don't actually want to blow it in my mic. But I can't consider Justice Hill. The Baltimore running back room scares the hell out of me time after time. It doesn't matter what the name is. I'm just nervous. Until I see it consistently from that guy, don't trust it at all. Josh Palmer, Curtis Samuel, it's pretty easy for me there. I like Josh Palmer. I think long term, if I'm thinking dynasty, I don't really trust that the Josh Palmer stuff maintains. I do think QJ gets that with time. But for the foreseeable future this year in redraft right now, I like Josh Palmer. I would be starting him. We also have Alex in the chat saying PPR flex. Pittman, Dobbs, or Laporta. He has Goddard in his tight end spot. So then you could also have the Goddard versus Laporta debate as well. First and foremost, let's start with that tight end. Jamie, are you doing Goddard or Laporta?
I think I'm going to go Goddard just because Laporta's coming back from that injury, right? And I don't think he played last week, or did he play last week?
Yeah, no, he played, but he's still.
He only got that 9 points.
Injury.
Right.
And Doc, how about you?
Yeah, Goddard for me pretty easy.
Yeah.
Okay. I like Laporta better, but
really interesting.
Yeah.
Tell us why.
Yeah.
He's just been a model of consistency at a position that really hasn't been consistent at all. It hasn't necessarily been sexy every week, but I feel comfortable having him in my starting lineup. And at this point, I view him as like one of those few names at that position I can actually trust. I know Dallas is also in that category, but it's kind of felt more hit or miss depending on the week. And with that in mind, I favor Laporta there.
So here's the question then. So if you're putting Laporta in a tight end, do you favor Goddard over Pittman and Dobbs?
And I think that's where it doesn't matter because I would actually have both of them in my starting lineup.
Okay, so there's your answer.
Yeah, okay. I would be more in favor of I've got Dobbs as that flex, or I guess if I can only pick one. Yeah, Pittman and Dobbs are on my bench. What about you? Jamie, I'll go back to you.
Yeah, I mean, I got Laporta and Goddard back to back, but they're separated by about 1.5 points difference. So I will go Goddard there. But Pittman, man, I have him the highest. I've got him in my top 10 this week only because I know he's got a tough matchup. but he's been top 5 in targets, top 10 in receptions. His yards after the catch, he's top 10. It's just that value, man. They're targeting him. So even with that tough matchup, I think he's going to get his. So I have him slotted for about 15 PPR points with Goddard at about 12.5 and Laporta like almost 11.
I love Pittman in this matchup about as much as I enjoy rocking this mustache only, and I hate it. So, no, I don't. I'm nervous about Pittman this week. Doc, what are your thoughts?
I'm a little nervous about Pittman too, just because of the matchup. But if Mr. Cleveland says go Michael Pittman, then I can trust the 14 targets from last week, and I can trust Michael Pittman. So as much as you have dubs against the kind of junior varsity Denver defense, that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to eat. Maybe Christian Walker eats. Maybe Luke Musgrave eats. Maybe the running backs go crazy. So it doesn't necessarily. There's a lot, a decent amount of options there. But Pittman being the number one, having that target share.
Yeah.
And with the stamp of approval from Cleveland's own, then I'll go with Michael Pittman.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Pittman's at like over a 28% target share on the year.
So, Alex, it sounds like they're saying they would do Goddard and Pittman. I would do Goddard and Laporta.
It is close. It is close with Laporta. I will say that.
Yeah, I think it sounds like we're all in agreement. Dobbs, not as much, though. I do expect Packers to have a good amount of passing volume. I just don't know where, and I don't want to risk that when it seems like you have more sure options between Pittman and Laporta there. Then we also have Justin in the chat. Hey, guys, half PPR, Barkley or Walker?
Oh, my God. Why do you have to put 2 of my top 5 running backs in a start set question?
Doc, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you got to love Saquon Barkley. But given the fact that he's, coming back from injury, they're already down Daniel Jones at quarterback. Kenneth Walker has done nothing to demonstrate to me that he doesn't deserve to be a starting running back. So I'm going to go Kenneth Walker here and hope that Saquon makes it through unscathed and the Giants offense, kind of starts trending on an upward trajectory, and we'll try again next week. But for now, I'm going to go Kenneth Walker.
Jamie?
Yeah, I got Kenneth Walker. I'm just looking now. I got Walker at 3, Barkley at 5. So separated by about 2 points. So, yeah, I'm going to go Walker. Especially against Arizona.
Saquon.
What?
I said, that's aggressive for Saquon. You like Saquon this week, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it's not really more Saquon. It's who else is on the slate,
Well, that's true.
The Saquon dynasty owner in me wants a lower production week from Saquon this week, but stays healthy. But what I actually think is going to happen is a very large workload where he produces, but it's probably going to result in a lingering injury where he's going to be questionable for the next 4 to 6 weeks. So while I would like him to be more preserved long term, I expect a high workload this week, and I would go in favor of Saquon.
Yeah, I think he's definitely going to get the workload. I know he has had the ankle thing. I don't really think that's that big of an issue now. He's they've been kind of keeping his practice reps down, but I think he's been playing and he's going to be fine. So the injury thing doesn't really concern me. It's just more, I like them both, but I like Kenneth Walker a little bit better.
It's more so my concern of injury is not a pre-existing one, but one that could come from just being overworked this week.
Gotcha.
That's my concern. It's just that they're going to be like, hey, we have no one else healthy on this offense. We have no offensive line. We have no quarterback. We have no clue what we're doing in general. Here's Saquon, take the ball and get tackled by 800 guys at once.
So interestingly enough about Tyrod Taylor, the quarterback for the Giants, he's a trivia question answer. So do you guys remember that he was the starting quarterback for the I think they were the San Diego Chargers at that point. Maybe they had moved to LA, I'm not sure. Yeah. And he was the guy who was supposed to start over Justin Herbert. Yep. He got a pain numbing injection and they collapsed his lung, and that's what gave Justin Herbert the start. And then he got wildly pipped and he got nailed to the bench, and that was that. But it was that, so whoever that PA or NP or doctor is who made that injection, I hope Justin Herbert's taking care of him or her, because that launched his career.
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of Justin Herbert hype. I remember that was the year they were on Hard Knocks as well. So that was everyone was ooh and ah by Justin Herbert during that show. But, sometimes it's just hype on that show. You don't know what's true, what's not. And then, Tyrod never even got the chance.
Now that I think about it, I think Tyrod's the one that gave Baker his shot in Cleveland. Tyrod went down. Baker came in.
He hurt his wrist or something, right? Something like that. Like
week 5 or
his wrist
4
or
or
fractured
something
his
like
wrist. Yep.
Baker Mayfield, Justin Herbert,
that.
same difference, right?
Yeah, right.
Guys, he launches careers, just not his own, unfortunately.
Jamie, you had another start sit for us as well. You want to throw that at us?
Yeah, let me pull it up real quick.
All right, I've got one for us, and Jamie just
tight end premium, half point tight end premium, Njoku or Jaden Reed. So
say that
I
again.
bring this up. Njoku or Jaden Reed, half point tight end premium.
Njoku or Jaden Reed?
I didn't want to be the homer and start Njoku, so wanted to see what the Green Bay homer has to say.
I don't love Njoku this week, but I would probably go Reed just off the hopes of him getting. I don't like either. I probably am leaning slightly in favor of Reed, but neither I feel good about, neither I necessarily trust for production. I think you're looking at 5 to 10 points from either of them, and you're hoping they get that touchdown to really juice their production. I don't think either of them are really getting this large volume or anything too sexy.
Now that I think about it, I think they're playing Denver, so Surtain's going to be on Watson, right?
Yeah, or on Dobbs.
What's the game? Yeah.
Or Dobbs, one or the other. So that might leave Jaden Reed as the number 2 option at receiver.
I like Reed for the upside if it's coming down to those two, but it kind of depends on what you need. If you need, if you're playing a team where, you're kind of shooting for upside, then I would go for him. If you want floor, I think Njoku's the better play. He's going to get 4, 5, 6 targets. He's going to get a couple of catches at least, get some yards. So he'll be there. Maybe he squeaks out a touchdown. It also depends on what you think of Deshaun Watson coming back. But if you're playing for floor and you just want some steady production, I think Njoku's the play. If you're looking for upside, I think Reed against that defense has a chance to pop off. So he could get you nothing, but he could shoot the moon too.
I like Reed for boom or bust if I'm looking for just consistency in Njoku. We're on the same page there. If you feel like you're in a very close matchup based off projections, I'd probably play the safe route there, go with Njoku. But if I feel like I'm projected to lose or I'm projected to win by a little bit, I got a little bit of margin that I'm either trying to catch up or stretch out by more, then I'll go with Jaden Reed there, be a little bit more aggressive. I also view Jaden Reed, as much as I like him as a talent right now, I view him as the 5th option in that offense. Christian Watson, Romeo Dobbs, Aaron Jones, Luke Musgrave. I mean, they really like Luke in that offense as well. So that's where, as much as I know they like the talent of Jaden, I just don't necessarily trust the volume. But yeah, this is a Denver team where, who knows? We also have Justin asking another question in the chat. Speaking of Packers wide receivers, we've got one with Romeo Dobbs. Dobbs or Flowers? Jamie?
Oh, this is easy for me. I'm going Flowers. Last week, I put Flowers in my top 10. He ended up as the 14th receiver. This week, I actually have him at number 13 going against Detroit. So right outside my top 12, and Dubes is way lower than that.
Doc, what are you thinking?
Love Flowers this week. He's done nothing to show that he isn't the number 1 option there. They're going against Detroit. That game could shoot out too. He's had double-digit targets, 3 times already this year. So he's really kind of starting to take over as far as the wide receiver volume. So Dobbs against the bad defense, but Zay Flowers really operating like a number 1. So I'm going to go with him.
I like it. Now, I am also going with Zay Flowers. That one's fairly easy for me. I just Flowers seems to be that dude in regards to chemistry with his quarterback and just getting volume. I really trust it there. And as much as I like the Dobbs matchup versus Denver, I still have to lean in favor of Zay quite easily there. I have a start sit for you guys. I will start at the running back position of this because I'm down bad at my RB2.
Okay.
This is between a Mr. Antonio Gibson and Latavius Murray in a PPR Dynasty League.
Wow.
I'm projected to win still, by the way. But luckily my flex spots are stacked.
Oh, I know Murray, he's got that number 2 role. He's got the goal line work. But you got Josh Allen who could also run it in. Gibson, I am starting Gibson in 1 just because I have no one else. And it is PPR. I'm just hoping for like 5-6 points from him.
Yeah. Doc, any thoughts there?
Yeah, just because it's PPR. If it wasn't PPR, if it was half PPR, I think it'd be more of a question. Neither one of them are particularly enticing. But I think Latavius Murray, you're kind of hoping Josh Allen doesn't vulture him on a touchdown. You're kind of hoping that they can run against the Patriots. So you have issues either way, but I would go with Gibson in a very close one just because of the PPR upside.
Doesn't that hurt to just pick Gibson in any start sit?
I mean, I've historically really been a Gibson stan, and he's been shattering my
I have never been a Gibson. I've been a Gibson hater, if anything, and the fact that I have him rostered on a team is a miracle, and it disgusts me that I'm even in this situation.
But I had high hopes, and when he came out, he surprised a lot of people with as productive as he was, and he had 1,000-yard season in his second season. He had 18 touchdowns over his first 2 years. Things were really looking good. 24, 25-year-old running back, new offensive coordinator. Washington's supposed to be good. I don't know what it is, man. He must have done something to somebody in that building because they really do not want to get him involved.
No, they really don't. And on the same roster, I'm in another start-sit dilemma. I have 2 of my 3 flexes determined already. Mike Evans and DK Metcalf, they're both in my flexes because I already had Waddle and Ridley. Ridley sucked. Thank God Travis Etienne made up for some of that. But it's between Cole Kmet, and this isn't a tight end premium, it's just a PPR. But Cole Kmet, Luke Musgrave, or Romeo Doubs. So we got 2 Packer options, Doubs or Musgrave, but then it's Cole Kmet. Cole Kmet's been fairly consistent lately. Not as much as past week, but the 2 weeks prior he was getting a few targets. I just don't, as much as I like the progress I've seen from Cole, he no longer has Justin Fields throwing him the ball. So that's where at this point I had to at least mention him, but realistically it's probably between more so Musgrave and Doubs. And that's where I wanted your thoughts. Doc, I'll go to you first on this one.
Yeah, let's get a little spicy with this. I know it's not tight end premium, but I just have this poll to say Musgrave. I don't I think it's close between Doubs and Musgrave, but I think Musgrave, I really have liked the upward trajectory that he's been showing the past few weeks. And I think he's less likely to get kind of game scripted out if Green Bay, really takes Denver behind the woodshed. So he could still get his no matter what. And the thing with Kmet is, you have to wonder about how Tyson what's his first name? I know Badgett is
I call him T-Bag.
Yeah, right. So you don't know what you're going to get from him, and you could use Kmet as a safety blanket, but that offense could also really struggle to move the ball. And he didn't perform well last week when Fields was out. So I think it's close between Musgrave and Doubs. If it was tight end premium, it would be Musgrave all the way. Because it's not, I think it's closer, but I would lean Musgrave slightly.
Jamie, thoughts?
Yeah, I'm leaning Doubs just because they are playing the Denver defense, right? So if Surtain does cover Watson, that's going to leave Doubs open.
I think it's your same upside versus floor play type thing. So, I think Doubs, again, boom or bust kind of. Or at least higher upside, and then Musgrave kind of more steady production.
What scares me about Doubs is when I look at his game log this year, Packers have had 3 road games, and they're playing at Denver today. Mm-hmm. In the 3 road games, he has 5 targets, the week 1 against the Bears, 3 against Atlanta, and then 4 in week 5 against the Raiders. Now, in his 2 home games, he had 12 targets against New Orleans and 13 targets against Detroit. Obviously, there were other factors as Christian Watson played against the Raiders, and Christian Watson was not there in some of those other games. But I'm starting to question: why is there such a big gap between his production at home and on the road? Right. And that's where I might just go for more of that consistency. And similar to what we've discussed earlier, I view Doubs as more of that boom or bust guy, and Musgrave is kind of my safe floor guy. And with that in mind, I went in favor of Musgrave, but yeah, I don't feel great about either. Speaking of which, I do have another one. I wanted to talk about some running backs. It was specifically about Roshan. And with that in mind, Doc, how about you tell us about the Roshan stuff with the concussion? I know you're our expert there.
Yeah, this is really interesting because usually with concussions, we've seen players miss a week kind of regardless. And there was the thought when he first went out that he had kind of a 10-day layoff before his next game. So it was like, oh, there's a question of can he actually play without missing a week? Turned out that didn't happen, but not super surprising, especially with the the spotlight that's been shown on concussions, especially in the post-Tua concussion gate era since last year. The thing that's interesting is Roshan Johnson hasn't been back to practice yet since then. It's been 2 weeks and he's not progressing through the protocol. So there's gradations of concussion, and it's looking like he's got a pretty bad concussion where he's not able to kind of ramp up yet and he's slower to recover. So even though he's missed 2 weeks already, I really, until we start seeing him practicing and start advancing through the protocol, there really has to be concern of when he's going to come back. And I don't think you can pencil him in for next week yet until you see him get back on the practice field. So, guys like Donta Foreman, who it's like, it was even a question is he even going to get 1 week of work? Now it looks like he's going to get 2, and there might be more, and they may lean on him even more given the fact that Justin Fields could be out for 1, 2, 3 more weeks with his thumb injury. So, that's, kind of the thing with concussions, but also, with picking up running backs, especially when it looks like, hey, I don't even know if this guy's going to get work. Sometimes these guys just fall into volume where you don't necessarily expect it, and you get an extra 1, 2, 3 weeks of production out of them that you didn't expect.
Jamie, thoughts?
Yeah. So have we seen another player in the past have this bad of a concussion before?
I mean, Tua Tagovailoa had a pretty bad one.
Okay. But like not at like the running back position or nothing like that?
Nobody that immediately comes to mind. I mean, we have seen guys miss multiple weeks with concussions. It's really about how they progress through the concussion protocol. And there's very specific milestones that you have to meet as far as ramping up activity. And the fact that he hasn't been back to practice at all, he's not even doing work on the side. He's not riding the stationary bike. He's not doing anything. He's pretty far down in the, stage 2 of the protocol. And that's, kind of best case scenario. So he's looks like he's still pretty far away. That doesn't mean he can't advance relatively rapidly next week, but it is a red flag that this was on the scale of concussions. This one was pretty bad.
Yeah, that's not what you want to see, especially at this point in the year when you're expecting a lot. You're hopeful for a lot more weeks, which is therefore a lot more risk of re-aggravating it, right? Because we know after that first one, especially a major one like this, they're so much more susceptible to another. And then it's just more prolonged periods where they're out. Absolutely. Because you can't play that game, Once you get that major one, we saw it with Tua. He was out for such a long period after we really saw the impact throughout the rest of the year after he kept getting more of them. We also have someone in the chat on Facebook saying, full PPR, and keeping it on the Bears theme, Komet or Meyer, give circumstances on both teams. I'll just jump right in. I'm going Meyer. I really liked what I saw last week. I know we have Jimmy G out right now, but we also have Justin Fields out. I'm going to trust more so, this is tough because you don't really trust either offense, but I still trust the tight end usage, of the Raiders. We know they have that New England style offense with Josh McDaniel, right? We know they like to incorporate their tight ends. Michael Meyer finally shows some promise. They drafted him in the second round as well. This is someone they put a lot of equity in. I feel like they baby stepped it with him. They wanted him to kind of get acclimated with the offense, kind of adapt to the NFL level. And I believe it was 5 targets last week. I don't have it up to the on my other screen, but yeah, I got to lean Meyer there. I just I trust that offensive scheme more for the usage of tight ends, and that's what I'm trusting. If I'm picking talent, I personally like Cole Kmet better. I've been more on the Cole Kmet train for a while. But with that in mind, Doc, thoughts?
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I like what I've seen from Mayer. I like the fact that, we know that tight ends, it takes a while for them to get acclimated. Like Kyle Pitts might actually, don't look now, guys, but Kyle Pitts might actually be happening finally after 3 years. But the bar's kind of been reset with Sam Laporta and as productive as you alluded to earlier in the show, Zach. As productive as he's been right out of the gate, but that is very much the anomaly. Even guys that we really were high on, they were up there with Mayer, like Dalton Kincaid. He's been slow to start. Luke Musgrave has kind of been, somewhat slow to get acclimated. But we're seeing Marius Zucic finally kind of start to trend up. So given the negative issues with Justin Fields being out at quarterback and, questions about the Bears, are they going to be able to move the ball? Rookie quarterback, there's potential there, but I think a lot more potential for Mayer to continue his upward trajectory. So I would go with him.
Jamie?
Yep. Let's clean sweep it, man. Mayer, he's been seeing a snap increase since week 1, and he's finally reached almost an 80% snap share. He's getting the targets, getting red zone targets. They're probably going to score more points than the Bears. So, yeah.
And we like this guy a lot, right? Like coming in, especially us dynasty players, like he was ranked really high. And some people had him as, tight end 1. I know most people had Kincaid, but he was definitely up there. And we really liked him, pedigree, the skill set, like he's finally getting a chance to show it. So, definitely liking what we're seeing so far.
This is one of the best tight end classes we had for a rookie draft in a while. So that's where someone like Mayer, while he might not have been the first tight end taken, the expectations are high. They used a lot of draft equity to get him. And, you got to trust that they're going to give him some sort of opportunity at some point. Same thing applies to QJ, but we'll see about that one at a later date. Also, Facebook user is asking full PPR. Rashee Rice, Gabe Davis. Jamie?
So in my rankings, I do have Gabe Davis ranked a little bit higher. I got him at 30, Rashee Rice at 36, but that's just rankings in a start sit scenario. I'm going with Rashee Rice, who's probably going to be the number 1 target besides Kelsey. Gabe Davis is just too boom bust. And I think Rice is going to have a breakout game.
You mean it's not McCole Hardman's job now?
Yeah.
Doc, what are your thoughts on that?
I really do like Rashee Rice for a lot of the reasons that Jamie alluded to. I like Gabe Davis as well. I think he's always going to be boom bust, and you're just going to have to live with that. I don't want to completely discount the addition of McCole Hardman to that offense, not so much because of his skill set, but the fact that he's familiar with the offense. Patrick Mahomes is familiar with him, and he really has been searching for another wide receiver option to go to other than kind of hybrid, ultra Mr. Everything, Mr. Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce. So I think he can open some other things up. And Rashee Rice has been really consistent. He's been getting more targets, but he's been making the most of whatever targets he's got. He's over 10. He's in double-digit PPR points 4 out of the 6 games so far. And this game against the Chargers could easily shoot out, and Rashee Rice could be a really big part of that. So I would go with him.
I'm also going with Rashee Rice here. I don't. They're both boom bust. I do think there is an impact, like Doc was alluding to, with Hardman on Rashee's targets, but I still view him as their primary receiver, their wide receiver 1. I don't love to put that next to his name because it doesn't feel like it in regards to actual production for my fantasy team. But in regards to where they're looking when it's not Travis, I do think it'll still be Rashee first and foremost. With that in mind, I'm leaning in favor of that. I do see that boom bust potential, but with Gabe Davis, but it scares me. It could just be a high workload Stephon Diggs day. Maybe Kincaid finally gets that opportunity. But I guess Dawson Knox. I always like him as well. I'm just gonna go with Rashee Rice there.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Gabe Davis, he's kind of very touchdown dependent as far as hitting his ceiling. He's got 4 touchdowns on the year. Every week he scored a touchdown. Obviously, he's gone over double digits. The weeks that he hasn't scored a touchdown, 5.2 and 5.1 PPR points. So that's kind of a lower floor, but definitely a higher ceiling.
Yeah, I think you got to temper the expectations for both. We don't not necessarily projecting too much or expecting too much out of either, just because the floor is very dangerous for both, and I think we all agree with that. With that in mind, Jamie, you got another start sit for us?
I actually have a sleeper of the week. If you guys would like to hear about it,
let's hear it.
It's going to be Arizona Cardinals Michael Wilson.
Okay.
So he's getting all of his points versus the zone defense, right? He gets 0 points versus man. So the Seahawks actually play 70.8% of their defensive snaps in the zone. They also allow the most points to wide receivers in the league at 46.8 or 48.6, one or the other. But it's still the most points per game allowed to the wide receiver position. So who else besides Marquise Brown is going to get those targets? It's going to be Michael Wilson.
Trey McBride.
Yeah, I was going to say they do have those tight ends there, but I like it. I like the call.
I like it.
I like the call.
No, he showed a lot of promise. You can see why they used that draft equity to get him when it seemed like he was kind of that surprising name for, whoa, why'd they take him so early? You know, so, I think there was a lot of weapons during that rookie draft where Michael Wilson was definitely one I don't think everyone was anticipating going when he did.
And going off that, I have a start sit with him. I got Michael Wilson, Deontay Johnson, or Kyle Pitts, and it is a half-point PPR for tight end bonuses. So, and we get 40-plus yard reception bonuses and 40-plus yard touchdown bonuses.
Oh man,
I'm actually thinking about starting Michael Wilson over Deontay and Pitts.
Oh boy,
it is Kyle Pitts and Kyle Pitts only.
I was going to say, speaking of concussions, did you have any head trauma recently, Jamie? Yeah. You're gonna start Michael Wilson over those two?
Until after the week happens, and we'll rehash this and see.
Jamie is like, hey, I think he's going to have a big week, and I'm ready to risk it all and find out.
I love my bold takes, man. I love my bold takes. I like to roll with them.
I love the boldness, that's for sure. Fortune favors the bold. I don't know if it's going to favor you this week, but that's definitely a bold one.
So you guys are both going Pitts though over Deontay?
I mean, I would for whatever it's worth. Like Michael Wilson, as much as I like him, he comes in third. Pretty distant third for those three. But it's like I like him, but I like the other two guys more. So the Kyle Pitts may be happening, but you have to like Deontay Johnson. Coming off of IR, he said he's been ready for a couple of weeks. And he's a target machine when he's out there, even as bad as Kenny Two Gloves has been. I know I have him in a league, and it's like, hey, you know what? I got bye weeks. I'm down bad at wide receiver. Get out there, Tiger. This is what I drafted you for. So, you have another option, though. If you want to wait to see it, I totally understand. Then you can go Kyle Pitts, and you got the tight end premium to hopefully back you up. He scored his first touchdown on American soil last week, I think. I think Jeff Lambert mentioned that on the Friday show. So, I don't know. I think the arrow seems to be pointing in the up direction there.
No, absolutely. It's easily between Johnson and Pitts right now. I could see Wilson having a big week, but even if I'm projecting that's going to be a wait and see. I would rather let him blow up on my bench this week and kind of prove or earn that starter spot, make me really have to be like, all right, I got to put one of these big names on my bench. Right now, I just haven't seen it enough where I feel comfortable actually putting him in over those other names. We also have NBA Rigged in the chat. Good to see you as always. Good morning, Jamie and Zach. How are you on this beautiful Sunday? Did you guys invite the best analyst on earth, the famous Freddie? Absolutely. We'll take his time any chance we can get it.
That is high. That is high praise right there. It's good to see you again. Good to be back.
Yeah. And we also let's see. Will GB fans be? I hope they're wearing sunglasses, but no. If you look at the spread right now, you would think it's going to be a lot closer game. I feel good about the Packers, but this is a really big week for the Packers season. This is going to dictate a lot about their future with kind of where they're at with Jordan Love, where they're at with this team, and I think if the Packers lose this week, I'm going to expect us to, be moving towards that top end of the draft, probably taking a Drake May or someone like that towards the top, and also probably bringing in a different defensive player.
I mean, there's no chance the Packers are looking past Denver's junior varsity defense with a grudge match against Minnesota on the slate next week, right? Like this isn't going to be a trap game, is it, Zach?
Is it even a trap game? We don't even know if the Packers are that good right now.
I mean, they got to be better than Denver, though, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you would think that, but I mean, we watched the Browns beat the 49ers.
Oh, shots fired.
Hey, we watched the Eagles lose too. Hey, I even mentioned it on the show, and Jamie was like, no, there's not a shot.
Yeah.
No, right now, though, this is a very big week for Green Bay. I know it's not a big game, in regards to like national viewership and stakes on the line, But as a Packer fan who's been trying to evaluate this team all year and our weapons, I like Jordan Love, but I also think he's on a very short leash with such a loaded QB room and where the Packers are at in their standings. Because if we lose to a team like Denver, clearly there are a lot more things that need to be addressed. And it's a scary situation to be in. I like to think they could handle this one easily. I'm putting my fantasy players in as if we're going to handle this easily. But there is a world where if they choke this one, things are going to get ugly real quick up north.
Yeah, I don't want to say it's a must-win for the Packers, but just listen to the upcoming schedule.
I think
they're at Denver this week. Then they're home against Minnesota. They're home against the Rams. They're at Pittsburgh. They're home against the Chargers. They're at Detroit. They're home against Kansas City, and they don't get to breathe again until they're at New York against the Giants in Week 14. So if they lose this one, it could get ugly quick, rapid, and in a hurry.
Yep, it's not a spot I want to be in as a Packer fan right now. Especially with that offensive line. It reminds me of kind of the Giants situation right now where honestly I think it's tough to evaluate the quarterback situation when you have no ability to protect the guy. But at the same time, you can't sit around forever and make excuses for your quarterback, right? And it's a very scary situation to be in as a fan of that team. And I'm now living in that post-Aaron Rodgers world. I'm not too upset about it, considering he's on the bench. Also, NBA rigged. Dr. James, how do you see Aaron Jones' injury for the rest of the season? Is he going to be 90% of the games, or would you foresee a high reoccurrence for what he suffered? I believe that's a hamstring injury.
Yeah, so he's got a hamstring injury. The thing with Aaron Jones is like he really is a gamer. He's really trying to gut it out. He's really trying to help the team. I think with hamstrings, they're definitely tricky. But he's doing his best to go out there and perform. But there's always the risk of re-injury, and he really hasn't done anything of any substance. He missed 3 games. They had a bye, and he really didn't do much in Week 4 against Detroit. He only has that one game against Chicago and their junior varsity defense where he went over 20 PPR points. So I think the jury's still out on how he's going to be rest of the year, given that he's had the bye week to heal up and he's had a couple of games. It's encouraging to see him trending in the right direction. But he's kind of at a crossroads, I think. If they're able to kind of manage it and let him kind of heal up, he's an older player, so that works against him as well. So we're just going to have to see how it goes, but I'm not feeling great about it, but I'm not ready to write him off yet because this guy, he's a pro's pro. He's a gamer, and he's really can do it all for that offense, and they could lean on him big time. So if they can get some positive momentum going, I think he could be a big part of that second half of the season. So I'm not ready to give up just yet.
Yeah, going off that, I remember last year Keenan Allen came back a little too early, right? And
yep, sure did.
Same injury, kind of same age group. He re-injured it. He was out another 2 games after that. So I think they should put him at least on a snap count, kind of let him heal up, and then second half of the season, make sure he's fully healthy.
And as I recall, Keenan Allen didn't do too poorly after he came back from that second stint when they let him heal up. I think he was the wide receiver 3 or something like that for the rest of the year.
Yeah, no, something like that. But dominant ending to the year, absolutely. And I expect a lot from Aaron Jones. If the Packers are going to have any chance at even being a 500 team, I think it's mainly going to be because of Aaron. I think he's the guy they turn to every chance they get. They love to utilize him in the pass game and the run game. A.J. Dillon's clearly shown he's nothing more than a handcuff and a change of pace back. So that's where, if he's healthy, if he's good to go, if they're showing him the green light, it's full steam ahead. I love Aaron Jones rest of the year.
I had such high hopes for A.J. Dillon. What happened to A.J. Dillon, Zach?
Well, that is a 2022 situation. Aaron Jones had some injuries last year. And that was kind of when the expectation for A.J. Dillon to take that next level was there. There was kind of an opportunity to say, for him to prove I should be the next guy when you feel like moving on from Aaron Jones. With that in mind, in those weeks, Aaron was out. A.J. Dillon was very unimpressive. There were some really ugly weeks, not only just in fantasy, but in regards to just real NFL production. And quickly realized, hey, this guy, Quadzilla, big ass legs, he's a tank. He'll push through guys. but unless you're trying to get a 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, and just essentially a what do they call it, a tush push? Essentially that's all he's good for in my eyes. If you want to just truck over a few guys, get a couple yards here and there, goal line carry is cool. Other than that, though, he's not very elusive. His hands aren't the best. Yeah, at this point, I view James Robinson as more of the RB2 there than AJ Dillon, and they just signed James. Not a fun story, not a good story. But yeah, AJ Dillon down bad. If you have him in any leagues, just sell him for whatever scraps you can get.
So speaking of James Robinson, I put him on a trade block in our not a going for 2 staff league. If you want to buy him off me,
how'd that go?
I will not.
The going for 2 staff league isn't one of these Mickey Mouse leagues you play in, Jamie, where you can get 2 first-round picks for for your injured running back and wide receiver or whatever you were doing.
Yeah, I will not be trading with Jamie.
What a silver-tongued snake this guy is. Jesus.
I was only going to ask for a 4th. I mean, that ain't nothing.
All right, well, that's reasonable. Going for 2 league. That's a tough league to trade in, man. They might tar and feather you for that one.
Yeah, I'm actually, fun fact, in that league, I am projected to win. It's a super flex league, and I have 0 starting quarterback.
Wow.
Because Daniel Jones is out, and I have at the point of when I set the starting lineup, it was Daniel Jones was still supposed to be playing, and so I had Derek Carr on my bench.
So wait, which going for 2 league is this you guys are talking about?
This is a going for 2 staff dynasty league, and I have Derek Carr on my bench. But I'm still projected to kick his ass. There's a few leagues actually. I have no starting quarterback this week. Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, Zach Wilson, all out for me at the same time with the bye. So now I have an empty slot and Romeo Doubs in my super flex spot. Yeah, not a fun situation to be in. We also have NBA Rigged asking, being a Raiders fan, what grade would you give to Coach Josh McDaniels? He is the one you wish the Orcs stand by next year. Also, should the team be selling or buying this year?
All right. No, that's a really good question. So I would give McDaniels a B- so far this year. And I know he's easy one to be a target of. I don't think he's particularly great as far as the X's and O's of being a coach. I think he's, an A, solid A as an offensive coordinator. But the fact that they're 3-3 at this point is better than even the most optimistic of Raider fans, could have possibly expected. So I have to give him credit where credit is due. Is he the one that I wish the organization stands by? Not really, but I want them to stand by somebody, because it's been a revolving door at head coach for, the past few years. So the fact that he's had some modicum of success, let's just stick with it and see how it goes. And, I'm never a proponent of selling off, when you have a team that's 500 and, they could actually make some noise in that division. So, if it all falls apart, there's still another week left. But yeah, let's give him a chance to, to kind of do something here. And, I'm always about living the now and go for it. So that may not be the popular answer, but that's the way I see it.
Jamie?
Right, I don't know, man.
Thank you for that expert insight.
Yeah.
All right.
They did Patriots last week, right? And
I mean,
that's the new Patriots beat the old Patriots. It's like,
that's something. Going up against the hoodie, you got to give him credit. As much as you want to malign the guy, you have to give credit where credit is due.
You said the new Patriots versus the old Patriots. I think both versions of those Patriots are down bad, and you don't want to be either of them.
I think you can make a solid argument that McDaniel is one of the more successful, even with his counting his stint in Denver, he's one of the more successful Belichick disciples. Because think of the other head coaching options that you have to kind of put him up against. So I mean, what's that like? I don't. They had I don't know, some joke about winning the gold medal at the. Actually, never mind. There was another joke on Saturday Night Live where they said it's like being voted the most good-looking horse or something like that. It's like it's something, but I don't know how much of a something it is. So I don't know, but he's definitely up there as far as like the Belichick coaching tree. He's one of the more successful ones. So you got to give him credit there too.
I have a start-sit question for you boys. It is in my super flex spot. Or actually, I'll give you all 3 quarterback names. None are fun. None are what I want to be dealing with. I really hate my quarterbacks in the super flex league, but it's an orphan team and it's still winning. But it's Kirk Cousins, Russell Wilson, Gardner Minshew. You can have 2 of those 3.
I'm gonna sit Minshew. So it's between Cousins and
No, it's pick 2 of them. So you already answered it.
Okay, yeah, there's my answer.
All right.
So wait, give it to me again.
Minshew or Russell Wilson, essentially.
Oh, yeah, I'll go with Russell Wilson begrudgingly.
Okay.
But he's statistically he's performed pretty well. So let's
I
go.
don't know. I figured I'd at least ask with Jamie thinking Pittman's going to get 400 targets still. So I figured maybe there could be some points for Minshew in that as well.
You gotta remember,
I am a Minshew fan though. I do like Gardner Minshew. I think he's been maligned a little bit. I think he had some stability to that offense. Doesn't get a lot of credit for it. I totally did forget about Mike Vrabel. Obviously, he's probably one of the best, but I'd say McDaniel is like the best of the rest.
Yes.
Not a lot.
Dr. F. Goods.
Yeah, I mean,
good to see you.
What's up? But Russell Wilson, man, he's been sneakily a good quarterback for fantasy, not NFL, but for fantasy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, no, that's where I hate my quarterbacks because it's like they're not names I want there, but I won the league last year and I am 5-1 this year.
Oh, tell Ben who you're supposed to be. I just saw his comment.
House money.
Hey, it's called Spygate for a reason, right? Ted Lasso. But maybe I'll do that. NFL teams. You can find me on Twitter at Behind the Zach. I'll gladly do some scouting for you.
Oh, that's hilarious. That's the comment of the week so far, Dr. F. Goods.
I'm about to steal your players. Yeah, I was most recently working with Michigan, actually. Not sure if you guys heard about that. I don't really follow college football either, so I'm not.
Oh, Ohio State won.
Oh, yeah, no one cares about Ohio State.
Everyone cares about Ohio State.
Ooh.
I just hate the Big Ten schools out here because I live in the Chicago area. It's just all the Big Ten alumni, they just come here, because it's all around us. It's funny how many. I have another start set as well.
You want to talk about Big Ten? You better watch out for my alma mater, newly minted Big Ten powerhouse, Rutgers University, baby. Come on, bowl eligible for the first time.
I was going to say they're over 500. I never thought I'd see the day in the Big Ten. Good for you guys.
Come on.
I have another one though. Josh Palmer. This is a PPR in my flex position. This is pick one guy. Are we doing Josh Palmer, Elijah Moore, or Luke Musgrave?
All right, that's easy for me. I'm going Palmer. I got him in the top 20, like we talked about earlier against KC.
I second that emotion.
I also do.
I know Elijah Moore has been the first 2 weeks. I believe he got targeted when Deshaun Watson was playing, but I just can't trust that coming back from injury.
Do we? Here's the other part of this lineup: Jordan Love versus Denver, or Jared Goff versus Baltimore.
I think I'm gonna go Goff on that one.
I mean, Zach, if you don't go for Jordan Love in this situation, I don't think anybody can. So if you're questioning it, then I think that tells you something right there.
It's not about this is not a Jordan Love question.
Oh,
this is a Jared Goff is that dude question.
I mean, I don't know if he's that dude or not, but that offense is pretty damn good. So
he's QB5 on the year, and he had 11.4 as his worst week, 16 or in this format, 16.0 another, and then his next worst, 8. 3 of his weeks, so he's in the 20s.
That works for me. I say you got to fire him up until he shows you a good reason not to.
He's been, I love me some Jared Goff. As much as I like Jordan Love this week, I have a hard time benching Jordan Love.
Hamid Sandhu, original member of the Dynasty Gambit. Shout out to you. We used to get into some epic arguments about Jared Goff. He's been shoveling dirt on him for 4 years. I was the last man on the Jared Goff island, so I'm not abandoning him now.
Same. All right. So Jared Goff it is. All right.
I got a friend that's on another podcast, and he has a head shaving bet. for Jared Goff versus Deshaun Watson on the year, and he took Deshaun Watson. So if the points
might as well just shave
he's
now.
going to have to shave his head.
Better get those clippers ready.
Yeah. I mean, he should just do it now. I don't see a realm where Deshaun even gets.
You got to remember in the beginning, in the
This is
offseason, Watson was getting that hype, so he thought it was going to be a lock.
Wow. Live and learn, brother. Live and learn.
Dr. F. Goods, I know this is trash, but start one. Kenneth Gainwell, Cam Akers, or Deonta Foreman?
I don't think it's trash. Let me jump in on this one. I don't think it's trash. I think Deonta Foreman's got the backfield essentially all to himself, or at least he's the lead dog. He did pretty well as a lead dog when he was in Carolina, and they weren't that good last year. So yeah, I'm going with him. I think it's pretty easy. So I don't know. You guys tell me no. Talk me out of it.
No, that's 100% right, man. Got to go Foreman. Definitely not Cam Akers.
Foreman's the play here. That's right now with the Roshan stuff, with Khalil on the IR, I like Foreman a lot there. I think that's a safe pick, especially with what is it, Badgett? I know, Jamie. I'm not repeating your nickname for him. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's a family show, Jamie. Come on. Your kids are gonna watch this on replay later. It's Tyson Badgett, by the way.
Thank you. NBA Rigged also has a question for you, Doug. Just curious, have you gone to Raiders games in Vegas yet? Just wondering what the atmosphere is.
I have not been to Vegas to see the Raiders play. I did see them play in Oakland at the Coliseum a few years ago before they left, and that was amazing. Exceeded all expectations. I sat in the black hole with the true Raiders fan base, and that was an amazing experience. They were playing the Giants. One of my friends is a Giant fan, and he was loud and vocal as far as rooting for the Giants, and I thought we were all going to get stabbed. But we made it out alive, got some pictures with Darth Vader, and we all lived happily ever after. But it was amazing. But I'm looking forward to getting out to see them in Vegas. Just haven't been able to do it yet. But thanks for the question.
If you want to see the Oakland fan base at its best, just go to an A's game. It's super popping there, right?
Yeah.
We also have
good seats still available.
Yes, all of them, all the seats.
Yeah, all the seats. What's the old joke? It's like you call the A's to say when the game starts, and they say, "When can you get here?"
Remainder of schedule, remainder of season, which one would end up higher total fantasy points? Aaron Jones or David Montgomery?
Oh man,
Aaron Jones has some work to do. I think it's possible for him to get that work, but Monty's been on fire, and I'm not really going to question it. As long as Aaron Jones has some lingering injuries, I'm going to say David there, because David's I know his name's not sexy. He wasn't this top draft pick. He's not the super elusive highlight reel running back, but the dude's been a model of consistency year after year, and he's peaking right now. And that's, at this point, I don't know why we're going to question any of those Detroit Lions weapons or that offense or that team. I think they're a great team. I think they have a great system in place, and I love a lot of their dudes. So,
you got a strong feel here, Jamie?
You got to go with the better offense. That's Montgomery. So if they're both healthy rest of the season, I'm gonna take the better offense.
Well, neither one of them are healthy right now.
Yeah.
So I guess one question I would have is it PPR? That might make it a little bit closer. I'm also going to take a cop-out answer. These guys were bold enough to give a real answer. I'm going to take a cop-out answer. I actually like them both.
Same.
And I think it's going to be really close. So it's not like I like one and I don't like the other. I kind of like them both second half of the season.
I have them both.
Reasons where they could not hit, and injury is just one of them. So I do like them both, though.
I see them both as top 10 running backs the rest of the year. So I don't think it's
definitely in the RB1 conversation.
Yeah.
I can't believe we gone almost a whole hour. We haven't talked about Jahmyr Gibbs, really. Who? So is this it? Is this the week? Is this the week it's going to happen, or are they going to tease us again?
I actually have him in the top 6. So I think he's going to get most of the work, especially with
but here's the question, Jamie. Have you had him in the top 6 previously this year?
I think I have.
And he left you at the altar, holding the flowers, waiting for him to show up. We're still waiting. Waiting. So he's going to show up this time. You know, the band's ready to play. Everybody's in their seats. You know, the buffet's getting warm, but he's going to show up this time.
I really like him if in the realm of giving him the DeAndre Swift 2.0 comp. You want to know how I feel about Gibbs? I just think of DeAndre Swift.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing, though?
That means, hey, get him to the next team already so he can produce. Yeah. I'm glad someone's high on him because I'm not. We also have in the chat, Dr. F. Goods, how about this? Is it worth stashing Leonard Fournette on your bench right now if you have 6? If you only have 6 bench spots, I'd say that's probably a little too aggressive too soon because we don't know where and we don't know the workload.
How about if? Because here's something that I thought was interesting. I've been kind of like waiting for Leonard Fournette to happen this year, and it hasn't happened yet. He's been on a bunch of interviews. He's been on a bunch of visits, and it hasn't transpired. So Los Angeles, the Rams are really down bad at running back, and they opted to bring in Myles Gaskin before Leonard Fournette. And I think that really is telling. Not that Myles Gaskin is bad. He's got an interesting skill set. But, I mean, Leonard Fournette is right there, and they could have just as easily brought him in, and they opted not to. That really raises some red flags for me.
Leonard had a tweet yesterday, I believe, that was him saying he was going to go on a stream and announce his where he's signing next week.
Is it is he signing with the Toronto Argonauts?
Yes. Yes.
Is it an XFL team? Do we know?
That's where I think that's a little too aggressive too soon. I mean, if this is Dynasty and it's like, end of the bench, I'm signing him right now in Dynasty formats with longer benches, but in a redraft, 6 bench spots.
Go for
it. There's too many big names out there. I mean, there's so many other guys I'd rather have at that running back position. NBA Rig says, always wear a bulletproof vest when you go to the black hole.
I was good. I was just worried about getting hit with strays from my friend.
Yeah, that's fair. It's National Tight End Day. At least 3 tight ends will get touchdowns.
And yes, which 3 do we think? I think it's going to be Kelsey, Hockenson, Andrews. I mean, I don't know who else we can predict.
I mean, I don't know how, I think if anything, I
figured you would at least throw Harrison Bryant in there.
Or that just shows how down bad that position is, though. 3 touchdowns from that. 3 tight ends will get a touchdown. Yeah, I would hope so.
At least.
But I mean, I also wouldn't be surprised if it didn't happen based off how the tight end production's been this year. And for all we know, based off how that position's gone in fantasy, it's going to be all 3 touchdowns for tight ends this week are going to be guys that know
Adam Troutman,
Henry,
DeGuerrero,
Everett,
Noah Fant.
We'll watch Noah Fant be one of them.
Yeah, it's going to be like Robert Tunyon on the Bears getting
Donald
2.
Parham with a 3 touchdown game. That would be amazing.
He said, which 3 do you think? I think it's, Jonnu Smith, Kyle Pitts, and their 3rd string tight end. But Bijan throws all 3 of them.
Oh, that's fantastic.
NBA Rig says they also brought in Henderson after Gaskins.
Yeah, that I get, though. He has a history with the team, so that kind of made sense to me. But the fact that they didn't, he didn't get a sniff of coming in there when they kind of brought in a bunch of people off the street, I don't know. So we'll see. But on a short bench, I could talk my way out of it. If you had a longer bench, you can shoehorn him in there. Lombardi Lenny, I could see it, but not on a 6-person bench, with bye weeks and injuries and things like that. If you're in that good a shape where you can consider Leonard Fournette, I think you should count yourself fortunate.
Yep, I agree with that. With that in mind, we're going to close up the show for this week. Jamie, how about you tell everyone where they can find you?
Yeah, no, the Twitter X machine, Jamie Progue, and then right here every Sunday morning with Zach. And then on Tuesday, Chichi, I believe, Zach, you're going to be hosting this week with us.
Yep, I am your host on that show this week as well.
I'm looking forward to that.
And Doc, please tell them where they can find you. And also, first and foremost, I got to plug the book again, written by this man himself. Injuries suck, but your fantasy team doesn't have to. I'm already 2 chapters in. Got it in the mail yesterday. even signed it for me. I'm going to frame it at some point. So go check it out on Amazon. Highly recommend. You can learn a lot about injuries, how to better run not only fantasy football teams, but all your fantasy teams, and just have a broader understanding of injuries as a whole as we're watching these games. With that in mind, Doc, take it away.
Wow, I don't even need to say anything more after that. So you can get the audio version, the e-version, and the written version on Amazon and Audible. But thank you guys so much for having me on here. This was a lot of fun. I'm working here with two of the hardest working men in fantasy football. So, I feel like I'm a slacker when it comes to these guys. But you guys are always so gracious. It was a lot of fun to be on here. Hopefully we gave some good information, some good start sits. As far as injury content, I'm trying to decrease my exposure to Twitter or X. I'm trying to add more positivity to my life, but you can find me on the Going for Two Discord. If you're not a member of that, then definitely get in there. There's lots of really, really smart people, smarter than me, when it comes to start sets and things like that. I do have my own injury channel on there, so you can ask any questions you want. You can DM me on Twitter. I usually respond to that pretty quickly. As far as putting out just kind of global content, there's enough people doing that. You don't need me for that. You got a specific question, the Doc's here for you, though, and that's at TFS Doc. And again, thank you guys so much. It's always such a pleasure to be here with you guys and to have the opportunity to do this. So good luck to everybody out there this week, and hopefully you can stack some W's, get closer to those championships.
Yes, sir. No, good to see you as always. Thank you for joining us. You can find me on Twitter at Behind the Zach. You can also find me later today on the Rum Boys Network. I am now part of their team. I will be joining Robbie on the Rum Zone. Then on Tuesday, you'll be able to find me on Fantasy and Frames. I'm also a part of their team now. I will be co-hosting with Gator, and we will be doing Week 8's Waiver Wire Show.
Nice.
Also on Tuesday, I will be hosting the Fantasy Cheat Sheet over here on Going for Two. And then after that, I will be hosting the NBA Rum Pass on the Rum Boys Network for the NBA season opener. Feel free to join in on that as well. And then also on Wednesday, you can find me on the Armchair Fantasy Show on the Going for Two Network. Jeff, our owner, that's his show. I'll be joining him on there. But you can find me all over now because I'm going to be doing a whole bunch of shows.
Look at that. Look at that. Zach's resume of shows that he's on is longer than it. Well, it's long, folks. And thank you, everybody that showed up and asked questions. Thank you in the chat. Thank you, Dr. Rav. Thank you, NBA Rig. Thank you for everybody else that came out and, supported us, asked us questions. This show really doesn't happen unless you guys are here asking questions. So we really appreciate it.
Yep, absolutely. We'll see you all again next week, and good luck.